The rain battered the cracked pavement outside Pinnacle Enterprises, a sleek skyscraper that loomed over downtown Chicago like a monument to ambition. Inside, the lobby gleamed with marble and chrome, a world away from the damp, gray streets, where Maya Torres stood, clutching a soggy job application. Her thin jacket clung to her shivering frame, and her sneakers, worn to the soles, squelched with every step. At 22, Maya carried the weight of her family's hopes, her mother's hospital bills, her little brother's hunger, and a dream she barely dared to name. She wasn't here for glory. She was here for survival. But as she pushed through, the glass doors, the receptionist's sharp gaze cut through her like a winter wind. Maya's heart sank. She knew that look, the kind that sized you up and found you wanting before you even spoke. Maya approached the polished desk, her application trembling in her hands. The receptionist, a woman with a severe bun and a nameplate reading Cynthia, barely glanced up from her computer. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone clipped. Her eyes flicking over Maya's damp clothes and tangled hair. "I'm here to apply for the graphic design internship," Maya said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. She slid the application across the desk, her portfolio a battered notebook filled with hand-drawn sketches and carefully printed designs tucked under her arm. Cynthia's lips curled into a smirk as she scanned the application. "You're applying for that position," she said, her voice loud enough to draw a few glances from the suited employees passing through the lobby. "Honey, this is Pinnacle Enterprises. We don't hire just anyone off the street." She chuckled, a sound that stung like a slap. "You might want to try somewhere less competitive." Maya's cheeks burned, but she held her ground. "I have experience," she said quietly. My portfolio. Cynthia interrupted, her laugh sharper now. "What? Did you draw it in crayon?" A few nearby employees snickered, and Maya felt the room shrink around her. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the rain outside. But she thought of her brother Luis waiting at home with an empty fridge. She thought of her mother, too weak to work, whispering, "You're our light, Maya." She couldn't walk away. "Please," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper, "just pass it along. That's all I'm asking." Cynthia rolled her eyes, snatching the application with a flourish. "Fine, I'll make sure it gets to the right place," she said, tossing it onto a stack of papers with a dismissive flick. "But don't hold your breath." Maya nodded, clutching her portfolio tighter, and turned to leave. The rain outside seemed kinder than the laughter echoing behind her. What she did know, what no one in that gleaming lobby knew, was that her application had already caught the eye of someone who mattered. Someone who saw not just a soggy piece of paper, but a spark that could light up the world. Maya's life had never been easy. Growing up in a cramped apartment on the south side, she'd learned early that dreams were luxuries she couldn't afford. Her father had walked out when she was 6, leaving her mother Elena to raise Maya and Luis on a housekeeper's wages. Elena had a gift for storytelling, weaving tales of courage and kindness that made Maya believe in a world where people lifted each other up. But when Elena was diagnosed with lupus 2 years ago, those stories became harder to tell. Medical bills piled up, and Maya dropped out of community college to work odd jobs, waitressing, dog walking, anything to keep the lights on. Her only escape was her art, late-night sketches scribbled by the light of a flickering lamp, each line a rebellion against despair. The internship at Pinnacle was a long shot, a chance to turn her passion into a paycheck. She'd spent weeks perfecting her application, pouring her heart into designs that blended bold colors with stories of resilience, posters inspired by her neighborhood, logos that captured the spirit of community. She wasn't naive. She knew her lack of formal training and her thrift store clothes made her an outsider in a place like Pinnacle. But she also knew her work was good. It had to be. Back at home, Maya peeled off her wet jacket and hung it by the radiator. Luis, 10 years old and all elbows and curiosity, looked up from his math homework. "Did you get the job?" he asked, his eyes wide with hope. "Not yet," Maya said, forcing a smile. "But I gave them my application. That's the first step." Luis grinned, oblivious to the sting of Cynthia's laughter still echoing in Maya's mind. "You're gonna be famous, Maya. I know it." She ruffled his hair, her heart aching. "Eat your dinner." "Okay, I'll heat up the beans." She stirred the pot on their tiny stove. Maya's thoughts drifted to Pinnacle. She didn't expect a callback, not really, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change, something bigger than she could imagine. At Pinnacle Enterprises, the day hummed along as usual. Cynthia filed Maya's application in the unlikely pile, already forgotten. But on the 42nd floor, in a corner office with a view of the city skyline, Ethan Caldwell, the CEO, was restless. At 38, Ethan was a tech wunderkind, a self-made billionaire who'd built Pinnacle from a garage startup to a global brand. His company was known for cutting-edge design and innovation. But lately, Ethan felt something was missing. The spark that had driven him in his early days, the belief that creativity could change lives, was buried under corporate deadlines and boardroom politics. That afternoon, Ethan wandered down to the HR department, a rare occurrence that sent the staff into a quiet panic. He wasn't there to micromanage. He was searching for inspiration, something to reignite his passion. As he flipped through the stack of internship applications, Myers caught his eye. The paper was slightly crinkled, damp at the edges, but the cover letter was handwritten, the words raw and earnest. I believe design can tell stories that matter. It read, stories that remind us we're all human. Intrigued, Ethan opened the attached portfolio file, which Cynthia had reluctantly scanned. The designs hit him like a thunderbolt. A poster for a community center, vibrant with colors that seemed to pulse with life. A logo for a local bakery, simple yet so evocative it made him think of his grandmother's kitchen. Each piece was rough, unpolished, but brimming with a soulfulness that Pinnacle's glossy campaigns lacked. "Who is this?" Ethan asked, holding up the application. The HR manager flustered glanced at the name, Maya Torres. "Just some walk-in applicant, no degree, no real experience." "I wouldn't bring her in," Ethan said, his voice firm. "Tomorrow." Maya was elbow-deep in dishwater at her part-time diner job when her phone buzzed. She dried her hands, expecting a bill collector, but the voice on the other end introduced herself as Sarah, an HR assistant from Pinnacle. "We'd like you to come in for an interview tomorrow at 10 a.m., she said. Maya froze, the diner's clatter fading to a hum. "Tomorrow, are you sure?" "Mr. Caldwell specifically requested you," Sarah said, a hint of curiosity in her voice. "He was impressed with your portfolio." Maya's heart raced. Ethan Caldwell, the Ethan Caldwell, had seen her work. She barely slept that night, her mind spinning with possibilities. By morning she'd ironed her only decent blouse, borrowed a neighbor's blazer, and practiced her answers in front of a cracked mirror. She didn't know what to expect, but she knew this was her shot at Pinnacle. Cynthia's jaw dropped when she saw Maya walk in, her head high despite the ill-fitting blazer. "You again," Cynthia muttered, loud enough for Maya to hear. "Don't waste their time." Maya ignored her, clutching her portfolio like a shield. In the interview room she faced Ethan and two other executives. Ethan's presence was commanding, but his eyes were kind, curious. "Tell me about your designs," he said, leaning forward. "What makes them yours?" Maya took a deep breath. "They're stories," she said. "My neighborhood, my family, the people I see every day there, in every line. I want my work to make people feel seen, to remind them that everyone's story matters." Ethan nodded, his expression unreadable. "And what makes you think you belong at Pinnacle?" "I don't have a degree or a fancy resume," Maya admitted, her voice steady. "But I have heart, and I know how to tell stories that connect people. Isn't that what design is for?" The room was silent for a moment. Then Ethan smiled, a real smile, not the polished one he used in boardrooms. "Let Ed Kesey, you're hired." Maya blinked, certain she'd misheard. "Hired, as in the internship." "As in, I want you on my design team," Ethan said. "Your work has something we've been missing, authenticity. We start Monday." The other executives exchanged glances, clearly stunned, but Maya barely noticed. Her heart was soaring, her mind racing with thoughts of Luis, her mother, the future. She thanked them, her voice thick with emotion, and walked out of the room feeling 10 feet tall. Word of Maya's hiring spread through Pinnacle like wildfire. Cynthia's face turned crimson when she heard, her laughter replaced by tight-lipped silence. But the real shock came a week later, at Pinnacle's annual gala, where Ethan unveiled a new community outreach campaign. The centerpiece was a series of posters, Maya's posters, polished by the design team but unmistakably hers, celebrating the resilience of Chicago's underserved neighborhoods. The room, filled with industry giants and media, erupted in applause. Ethan took the stage, holding up one of Maya's designs. "This," he said, "is what Pinnacle is about. Not just profit, but purpose. This campaign was inspired by someone who reminded me why I started this company. Maya Torres, please,